Hey y'all, so this is the first video of the tutorial for the purse I made. It's the one I did for Tiffany for her birthday, and this is at the request of Miss Linda. So I did not have all my ducks in a row and my squirrels went wild. I started this and I realized that I had forgotten the third piece of chipboard. So I had to start over. So I've already started part of this. So we're starting with two pieces that are 6.5 by 8.5, one spine that is 2.5 by 8.5, and then another spine that is 1 3/4 by 8.5, and then our piece that flaps over that we're going to use to close it is 4 by 8.5. I use the lay flat method. For anyone that doesn't know, this was developed by Tamara Merrill at Country Craft Creations, and if you go to the Country Craft Creations YouTube channel, she has videos explaining this method. I'm just showing a little bit of it. I already have my chipboard wrapped and we're attaching the spines. So the 2 inch is going to be the bottom, and our 1 3/4 is going to be the top. When I did a purse for myself originally, and I did a curved flap, which was very challenging. I did both the top and the bottom the same size, and I didn't like how it kind of slouches when it sits up. It just didn't feel as stable. So when I did it again for Miss Tiffany, I did a slightly smaller top spine, and it just proved a lot more stable and was much more happy with how that turned out. So we are just attaching our pieces. And I use glue. You can use all score tape if you want. I think most people use a combination of the two, score tape and glue. Do whatever you feel most comfortable with. And I'm going to match up these edges here. And always, of course, burnish down really well. Okay, so this is what the layout then should look like. 6.5 by 2 by 6.5 by 1 3/4 by 4. And then when we close it up, it's going to look like this. And we'll have the flap over. So now we will go ahead and cover these two pieces right now. So I have 2 pieces of black artisan cardstock. That's what I'm building the base with. These are 3.5 by 8 3/8. Now you could go larger if you want more of a flap. I know some people prefer more of a flap. I had 3.5 inch strips at the ready. I actually had 3.5 by 12 inch strips at the ready, so I just cut them down to the length I needed, and that's what we're rolling with. We're just going to cover up the spines and give them a little bit of reinforcement. I use score tape on these because it excuse me, it adheres the best. Especially for, to be real even and flat and nice. Now I do add a little bit on the chipboard. Sorry for the road noise. We really only get March and like the first week of November to open up the house. In March, 1st March, because it's right before the great pollinating, but it's gotten warm enough. And then November is right before it gets too cold. You don't want to open them, and the pollen has finally died back down because I'm in North Alabama, and the land of North Alabama just doesn't want us to live here, I think. So we cover that up, and then we're going to score our parts that bend score them. Be sure, you know, if you have a pointy one that you're not pointing it down, because you will go through the cardstock. And I just gently ease it on over. And now we've got our full nice crease. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Pull it up some. Okay, and then I'm going to fold it over. And there we go. This can be done. I love the artisan cardstock for a book like this, but this could be done with a good brand cardstock that isn't necessarily a linen blend. You just have to be a little more careful when you're folding the edges so that it doesn't crack. And as long as you're gentle, I think it should be fine. I've had plenty of good luck with other cardstock. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing here. And the reason I do this is, even though I live in a place where the weather tries to drown us for 6 months out of the year or more, we stay inside with the air conditioning. The air conditioning makes it dry. So I made my daughter a book or two solely with score tape, and had to put the pages back on the spine because it dried out. So I like to use a little bit of both most of the time. We're just going to again get our creases nice, ease it on over so we get a nice clean bend with no cracking. And then we'll get this other one here. Sorry if on camera I'm a short girl and I gotta lean over because otherwise I can't see or reach. There we go. And so there is our base, all finished. And we're gonna hold this close with a magnet. All right, so set that aside. And then we're gonna get our piece for the hinge. So let me see. This is 4 by 8. Our pages are 6 by 8, and so our hinge is 8 inches long. For here we have 3 pocket pages we're doing, and this is scored at a 1/2 inch, 1/2, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, all the way across. Okay, and we are just going to start folding. So we're going to do our first hinge, and then we're going to fold it back again so we've got the edge of the next door gusset. Make sure it's not hanging over any. Let's go ahead and do the other side, make sure, see if I need to trim it. Let's see if it wants to bend nicely. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. When you're using your bone folders, start in the middle burnishing and go up and then come down, or go down and go up, doesn't matter, but start in the middle and go to the edge, and then go back to the middle and go to the other edge. The reason being, it keeps your score fold straighter. It doesn't, especially the longer the fold, it can kind of go wonky if you start at one end and go to the other. Okay, so this one I do want to trim a tiny bit off. And we are just literally doing a hair. I mean, a sliver of a sliver. There we go. You can see that's how much I took. Just a tiny bit. Pick up all my score tape pieces over there. Okay, and then I'm using glue. And then I lay it flat, and just like I burnished it, I'm going to burnish it again with the glue the same way. And I'm just going to wipe up whatever comes out all the way to the end. Okay. And then I'm going to flip it back over, burnish it again, because we're breaking down some of those fibers in the hinge there. Okay, so we have our hinge here. We have our gusset. This is our next hinge. So that is where I'm going to fold. I'm going to fold the hinge first. So I just come over, start in the middle, go each direction. Okay. Now we want to finish this gusset right before it. So I'm going to fold it back this way. So see, this is going to be our gusset, and we're going to fold it back this way like this. And burnish. And then the other way. The middle one is always the tricky one. Okay. So you can see we're going to have the 3 hinges with the 2 gussets in the middle. And we're just going to glue it all together. Nothing terribly hard. Well, once you get the hang of it, it's not hard. A little hard in the beginning, I think. But it doesn't last long. That's good. Things that are hard should not ever last long. Okay, come down. And we're just going to keep burnishing it. We want that glue to stick really good. And we want to break up those fibers so that our hinges are nice and loose for turning. Okay, now our last one. Really surprised I don't have Beaker, our little schnauzer, barking with the windows open. He's being good so far. He's not a barker, but on a nice day like this, when a lot of people are out walking around, it is his job to remind them that this is his neighborhood. Okay, so we're just going to burnish this a little more. Get these all nice and loosey-goosey. Okay, so like I said, because I live where it is humid, but the house is dry, I am going to use a combination of score tape and glue. And I like the score tape because you get an immediate stick. But of course, since I have had it dry out on me, then that little bit of glue makes sure that it's not going to come loose. So, okay. All right. So when we're doing our purse, our 2-inch on the bottom, our 2-inch spine, that's the bottom. This is where we are putting our hinge. Okay. The purse is going to open like this. This will be the front. It's going to open. It's going to come back. And here are the pages. And the pages are going to come towards you. So they're going to fold this way. We're not going to need to turn the book in order to see the pages. They're going to be facing the way we open that book. Or the way we open a purse, right? So we will put down our hinge. And again, I use kind of a little of both. There we go. When we put in this much work on something, we definitely, especially if it's a gift then, you want it to, okay, I usually eyeball, but you can use spacers or your Tim Holtz ruler. Okay. There we go. If you want to, okay, we aren't, it's staying. That's that. If you want it to be absolutely exact, it's really maybe an eighth more on this side. And I can only see that because I've been doing it for so long, I spot it. So let me burnish this down, get those gussets down in there. And here we go. I'm gonna put it out the top there. All right. Okay, our base is completely finished. Now, I build my pages and then put them in the book. You are welcome once I have the base pages to put them on the hinge and build it as we go. That's up to you. I'll be doing my way because that's what I like. All right, so as the cutting guide says, we have 6 pieces. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to hit the camera. 6 pieces that are 8.5 by 6, and we're scoring at 1/2 on each side. So all I did is put it in my scoreboard, the 8.5 along the top, and then I scored at 1/2 down on each of those pieces. Then we're going to, I do them 2 at a time, otherwise this takes forever. I'm going to miter just a tiny bit so that we definitely don't have anything sticking out. So, and last 2. Hold them together nice. There we go. All right. Now we're going to fold these along our 1/2 inch. Okay. Burnish good. These are going to make pocket pages. I did not put an insert, but you most certainly can. We're going to leave them open and you can decide what you like. I ended up gluing mine shut. I just like doing my pages this way. It's just easier, I think. Okay, so we've only scored at one end, so we're just going to alternate those ends like that. I have found rather than doing half of them one measurement and half of them another, that I waste less paper when I do it this way. And maybe it's in my head, I don't know, but we're going with it. We're just going to glue these together. Line it up. Okay. And I'm going to open it up and get another good burnish that way. Okay. Now, obviously you can do this however you like. I like to put it to the side like this because then I can come in and smooth it down on top. And it just stays more even when I do it that way. So I'm going to put my glue on. And again, I'm going to come over and smooth it down in place. And burnish good. All right, and there's our first one. Clean the glue off the edge there. Just a little bit came out. And we're just going to repeat the process for the other 2 pages. So, burnish. I'm just using a covered piece of poster board. I missed my glass mat, but I was afraid it'd be too shiny. Too much of a glare back at everyone. But I like having a good hard surface for burnishing. Gonna line it up good. And this is just how I do it. If you have a better way that works for you, use what works for you. Because you're going to get the best result that way. Okay. All right. I always check to make sure it's going to line up good before I put the second one on, because if we have to take it apart, we don't want to take apart both ends. Just don't want to have to do that. Okay, move it. Alright, this one's going to be difficult. There we go. Slightly over and burnish. Alrighty, put the glue there. And last one. Oops. Just knocking into everything. But this is the amateur hour. You asked for it, Miss Linda. You got it, baby. Let's make sure that's good and down. That's looking good. Okay. All right, now we got our pages. Okay, at this point, I want you to take a pen, or pencil, or whatever. We are going to mark these because we're going to map them in a specific way. We need to know what page is what and which direction is up. Because again, we are going to fold these like this. Okay, so this is page 1, and that is the top. And we're going to fold it down. And then this is page 2, and that's the top. So essentially our bottom on the front is the top on our back. We need to be paying attention to this as we mat. Things are directional. If it's not directional, hey, it doesn't matter. But most of our paper, some of it at least, is directional, and that is going to matter. So now we have page 3, and that is the top. Flip down like that. Page 4, this side's the top. Our last one, page 5, top, flip it down, page 6, top. Okay, and this should help keep us straight as we are building the book and as we are matting the book. In theory, if you get going too fast, yeah, you'll be tearing some off. I have, and that's just kind of how it is some days. We do. Okay, so in this segment, we'll go ahead and start on page 1. So our page 1 pieces, I guess I should go over the scoring. Our page 1 pieces are 6 by 4. On the 6 side, we're going to score it 1/2. Then we have our flaps A and B. Okay, they are both 5.5 by 6. On the 5.5 side, we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. And then our pockets, we are doing corner pockets, and they're 6 by 6. So first, we're going to cut the triangles. Get back out my trimmer. I'm just going to lay it on top here because we're going to score next. So you're going to put the square in your trimmer. You want to line up the corner at the top and the bottom. Hold it down nice and steady, cut in half. Now, make sure you can see. Then we're going to take our triangle flat side down, or up at the top if you cut that way, however you do it. We want to again put that point down in our cutting ridge. Oops, sorry, and cut it in half. So we have 2 for here, and we need 2 for the other side. I have a noisy cutter. It's squeaky for some reason. It drives me nuts. And repeat. Okay, now we have our 4 little triangle pockets. So we're going to take them and we are going to set it in. Oh, we're going to do the short sides is what we're doing. So on the short side, 1/2 inch. On the short side, 1/2 inch. On all of these. I know I do score a little weird to the side. I don't know why when I try and do it with, you know, the top truly at the top and down. I can't do it to save my life. And I know that's weird, but, you know, is what it is. At this point, I'm over being weird. It doesn't bother me, so. If it bothers you, I guess find another tutorial because it's just not going to change. Okay, so we've got our triangles. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue down our top flap first. And I am going to round the corners on this, I think. If you want to do any corner rounding or any decorative edging, you know, now's the time for you to put it in the book. So I have all these little bitty pieces around. Okay, we're going to miter just a tiny bit. Okay. And fold and burnish. Okay. This is going to go in the middle. Here's our top. This attaches at the top. So we've got our arrow. We can do it. Now I'm going to turn it upside down because I can see better that way. But you can see, we know which one is the top because we've got our arrow. So we know we're putting it on the correct side. So, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm missing my mat with the line guide. We may have to go back to that. I'll just have to put up with the shine. Okay, burnish that down. All right, now we're going to take flaps A and B. Okay. And we're going to miter them. Okay, and because I'm weird, I'm getting all these little pieces are driving me nuts looking at them. All right, get them out of the way. Okay, and we are going to fold these on the score line. Now, I'm not going to round these corners because we are going to put the corner pockets on them. Okay, so what we have is one on each side, like so. Okay. Now, before we do this, these are tied closed with a ribbon. So we need to go ahead and attach our ribbon now, and then we'll put our flaps on. So, sorry, I didn't think to already have that pulled out. Again, ducks not in a row, squirrels went wild. Here we go. Use some plain. And we can take our, I'm going to have to use my ruler because the normal lines on my mat, I can't see right now. So kudos to the people that can actually tear score tape. I cannot tear it to save my life. So I'm going to look at the center here and put it down. I either have to use my ruler or a metal cork-backed ruler. I love this thing. I know some people don't like metal ones, but I like that one really nice. And I usually use that to tear my edges. Or I get out the scissors because I just cannot tear the score tape. All right, so generally speaking, I go like the width across plus a good inch for length. This is not seam binding, so I'm not going to have to worry about the fraying or needing to tie the ends. So, okay, because these are going to fold over, we need to make sure that we have them facing out and not in. Okay. All right. I like to put one over top again. Can you tell I'm not a risk taker? That's also why I'm an accountant. Alrighty. So now we are ready for our flaps here. I'm going to take off my score tape and I'm going to put glue on my flap. And we're going to come right up to the edge, right over top of that ribbon. Making sure that we line up all across. Come out and score again on the inside. Okay. And then we're going to take our other one and we're going to do the same thing. This is a lot more simple than it looks. Which I tend to kind of like to do. I like paper with, scenes and things and let the paper do the work for me. But if you are an embellishment person, then this is equally good for you because it can go either way. So if you have a paper that has big scenes, a lot going on, you don't like to embellish, it still looks amazing. If you don't care for that and you like to embellish a lot, you have a lot of space to do so. Okay, so this is page 1. So we'll go ahead and write it again on the outside, page 1, and that is top. And that's going to be all for this video. There'll be other ones where we continue working on the book. Thank y'all. Bye.